Well, Mr. Morris.
Answer.
Message. Is it? Just give me the presents, please. Yeah, so we don't get presents at Thanksgiving. Well, Jacob, do we want to start with Connie? Get through the preliminaries, make the announcement.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, it should be, as you go. Okay, it is 8:31. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Before we make a motion to approve the agenda, we do have a public hearing scheduled for 8:45. So any public comments that are not able to be made previous to that, we'll put off until at the end of the day to keep everything else going on schedule. So at this time, do you make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. And if we could all rise and stand and recite the pledge of allegiance with me. Pardon? Oh, yes, Jacob. Sorry. Sorry. Thanks, JD. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No, you're fine. We went ahead and started without you. This time, public comments. We've got until 8:45, so let's. And just as you do speak, don't forget to announce who you are to the radio and everybody else know who we're talking to.
Good morning, I'm Jan Norris. I live in southwest Montgomery County, just north of the county line, close to Highway 59. The Summit CO2 pipeline is proposed to go in behind my house between our two farms. I have spent the last year learning all I can about these CO2 pipelines. My husband James and I are opposed to the project. However, I promise to always give accurate information to anyone who asks. I'm sure the Summit folks have probably already been in to brief you, but just to bring your audience up to speed, there are 3 carbon pipelines being proposed to crisscross Iowa. The Navigator line will run diagonally from Sioux City to Keokuk. The newest line, ABM Wolf, will cross 4 eastern Iowa counties and end in Clinton. And the Summit line is in our backyards. It is asking to run close to 700 miles across Iowa, going across northern Iowa and down the western side to connect the Green Plains ethanol plant in Shenandoah. It will affect nearly 7 miles in Page County before crossing into Fremont County, north of Shenandoah. Although Page County has only a few miles involved, every parcel counts if you are a landowner, like these gentlemen over here. What is carbon capture? The pipeline companies plan to capture CO2 as it is produced at ethanol plants, pressurize it into a liquid, transport it up to 2,000 miles across 5 states, and then either inject it over a mile underground to permanently sequester the CO2 or use it in enhanced oil recovery. Why? There are 10 billion reasons. The federal government will reward them with 45Q tax credits by the ton. All they have to do is say they sequester it. Other pipelines have shown that construction permanently damages the land. Landowners can never build a building or even plant a tree along the route. Communities cannot expand, fields are cut in half, timbers and habitats are forever removed, and our federal tax dollars will pay for it all. It is not a climate change solution, and a recent rupture proved that they are very dangerous. I want to thank you thank Page County for being one of the 44 counties, which is 78% along the routes, who have filed an objection against the use of eminent domain for a for-profit company. Thank you also for asking the Iowa Utilities Board to reject Summit's petition for a permit without voluntary easements in place with every landowner. The Exhibit H map submitted by Summit in September shows 58% of Page County parcels have not signed. Carbon pipelines are dangerous. There was a CO2 line rupture in Mississippi in 2020. CO2 is heavier than air and it displaces oxygen. People up to a mile away were injured, some of them permanently. First responders and hospitals were neither trained nor prepared to help them. Emergency equipment would not operate without oxygen and the ambulances couldn't get to them. Tests show CO2 can spread 1,300 feet in 4 minutes. Because of that accident, the regulatory agency PHMSA investigation recognized current pipeline regulations are inadequate to protect the public from the risks of CO2, and they are currently rewriting their rules. But Summit won't wait. They want their legacy exemption. Until PHMSA completes the long process of creating specific regulations for CO2 pipelines, our counties can take steps to protect its citizens by enacting local ordinances. Shelby County passed its pipeline ordinance early this month after considerable research, deliberation, and collaboration with an experienced legal expert. They were careful to follow all the code and in writing their ordinance and included reasonable requirements that can be substantiated in court. They fully anticipated being sued by Summit, knowing it was a matter of when, not if. So when they were served last week, it was no surprise. Summit claims they are a good neighbor. However, never spoke at any of their 4 public hearings, never submitted any written comments, and then sued Shelby County as soon as they passed their ordinance. Call Shelby County, they'll tell you they're not worried. I believe this lawsuit is to intimidate the other dozen or more counties looking at passing local ordinances. In fact, Crawford County is continuing to move forward with theirs. Summit is making their case on December 13th to the Iowa Utility Board that Iowa Utilities Board shouldn't be able to consider safety issues when deciding whether to grant this permit. Think about that. They want the state of Iowa to issue them a hazardous liquid pipeline permit without actually considering how it's going to harm me or you or our communities. There is still time. The Iowa Utilities Board has said Summit easements filings have not reached the point where they can schedule a hearing. They have too many eminent domain parcels. Being a public servant takes guts, and I thank you. It takes heart. It means doing the right thing for those you serve. Please pass a local ordinance to protect the lives and livelihoods of your residents and taxpayers. I would be happy to be a resource to you. If you have any questions or want additional information, I could probably forward you articles and resources, and I'd be happy to come back in the future and do this as a agenda item if you so choose. Thank you so much.
Good morning, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Marty Mayer. I'm a landowner here in Page County, live over by Imogene. And I wanted to address why we need protection via a county ordinance in this situation with this pipeline. First of all, I want to address the damage to the land. Obviously, as you know, we're not flat like Northern Iowa is. We have rolling hills and such. So for 40 years on our farm, we've used terraces, or terraces have been more than that. And for 40 years, we've been using no-till to try to protect the soil, to save the topsoil, and to enhance the growth of the crops, which is what our livelihood is based on. We have a lush soil. It's wind blowing, as you know. It's fragile. So our hillsides, on some of them, our topsoil is shallow. It's very precious. We guard it jealously because without it, we don't grow anything. This construction project is going to have a detrimental effect on it. Granted, it's not 500 feet wide, but still, you take 100 to 150 foot wide strip. In our farm, they want 3,300 feet, 2/3 of a mile, to go diagonally through our farm with their project. Now, what's going to happen? They're going to compact the soil. When you compact the soil platelets, it removes the ability of the soil to absorb water. And with the machines they're using, they will compact it with jeepers on this. We can go in afterwards and we can subsoil it, rip it up, and we're going to have chunks like this. They won't grow anything. You're going to be basically a whole year without having any cover crop on that land. So it's detrimental to the soil and detrimental to the long-term use of that soil. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was someone seems to be playing a little fast and loose with the truth. They had a meeting with the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors on November the 15th, I believe it was. And they made a statement or two there, quote, safety is a big concern of theirs. They're going above and beyond normal with their safety procedures. One of their examples was they're going to X-ray or sonar test 100% of the wells. Well, you know, your pipe comes at 50-foot lengths. And as they told us at the Shenandoah meeting, which I think some of you guys were there, they're going to move fast. They're going to put in 8 to 10 miles a day. Just think about that now. They're going to sonar test or X-ray every well of every 50-foot of pipe that they're going to put in at 8 to 10 miles in a day. It's not physically possible. I've talked to several engineers that are in that business. They said they don't test that. They may test an occasional. They don't test that much. They also said they're going to hydrostatically test the pipe before it goes into the ground. You know, hydrostatically test means we're going to fill it with water. We're going to put pressure to see how much it will withstand. You don't do that at feet when you're laying pipe. The way you hydrostatically test a pipeline, my daughter was an executive with a major oil pipeline in Minnesota for a number of years. You take 10, 20, 30 mile stretch of pipeline, you empty the product out, you fill it with oil, or fill it with water, excuse me. You raise the pressure to 4,000 psi, and you hold it there for an hour, see if it drops. If it doesn't drop, then you reduce it to 3,000 for 3 hours, and you wait and you watch and see if it drops. That's how you hydrostatically test a pipeline. So for them to say they're going to hydrostatically test the pipe before it goes into the ground is quite the misnomer, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's not possible. And they're making no provisions for testing it afterwards. They may, but they haven't said anything about it. Additionally, at the Red Oak meeting, they said there are setbacks for the houses and properties and such. Well, they haven't contacted me about setbacks. They want to put this pipeline in 300 foot from the residence tonight and 180 foot from a small grain complex that I and my children, grandchildren, work around every fall. There's no comment to me about setbacks. What they stated was they're going to follow the PHMSA rule. Well, the PHMSA rule is there's a 50-foot setback. Now, can you imagine a high pressure pipeline 51 feet from your house? That was designed, according to my engineers, for natural gas pipelines going through town, and they operate at a much, much lower pressure so they could service the houses on either side of the street. That's where they got the 50-foot rule. So that's the only thing that PHMSA has. So that's what they're using. And I think it's faulty. I think it's ridiculous and is no concern for our safety. So it doesn't. Additionally, if you read the Shenandoah meeting, you know that they were saying that they're going to put in a 6-inch pipeline from Shenandoah up through 2 or 3 counties. At the Red Oak meeting last week, they said, oh, it's going to be an 8-inch pipeline. Well, as I read through the easement document that they gave me, the easement document says 24 inches or less. So I'm really not sure what they're going to put in there. As you should know, CO2 is an asphyxiant. You know, you use it to put dogs to sleep and such, animals to sleep and such. A cloud of that will have the same effect on humans or livestock if it's released out in the country. We need a risk assessment for this CO2 pipeline, a risk assessment with plume modeling to model what happens if you get a plume of this stuff released, where it goes if it escapes, and who is affected. CO2 concentrates in valves.
We have reached 8:45, and we're going to have to hold off any more comments until after. We have we have to go into public comments for the
Public
hearing that's required by law. So we have to go at 8:10.
So, gentlemen, we need a county ordinance to protect the citizens of our county.
Thank you, Marty. Thanks, Marty. So please feel free to stay around and we can continue this. This time, I'd like a motion to call for a public hearing for the road closure. I guess have some discussion here from JD, can go through what we need to do. Sure.
Yeah.
Like a motion to go into public hearing.
I'll make a motion to go to public hearing.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Morning, JD King, Page County Engineer. If you'll look on your public hearing packet, the first item there is a request for road closure from both landowners. And then the next document is resolution 48, 2022, setting the public hearing on this proposed vacation for 8:45 Tuesday, November 22nd today. Can you start the presentation?
Yeah.
So the red flag southwest of Yorktown shows where this project is inside the county. And let's do the next one. So there's a segment of road, you see it swoops down across the creek at 90, which will bring you short of bridge. So this is a dead end road currently. Next slide. On the 5th of February 2013, the board met and had a public hearing, and the next two pages showing minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting and a final resolution. The segment of road outlined in black was closed in 2013 February. So this is currently a dead end road. And the landowners there, the Yukoskis and Hanson, would like to close the next section of road from, next slide, this piece of road here. From their property line on the east down to meet the previously closed and vacated road. The landowners weren't available today. They have other engagements, but I have comments from both of them. I received no comments from the public to the office. So this is Ryan Urkowski. We are requesting to have our road closed starting at our property line. Currently, the road is closed right at our house. And once a vehicle gets to this point, they have no other choice than to continue into our farmyard to turn around, or we have had several use our front yard to turn around in. This is dangerous for our children and pets. Additionally, because we live on a dead end road and because the roadside is heavily wooded, both me and the other neighboring landowner, who has also requested the road closure be moved, have had several people trespass because people do not realize that there is a house down there. We have the equipment and are willing to maintain this on our own. We're asking that the county close the road at where the start of our property is and where there's ample space to turn around. And you can barely see it on the aerial view there. Just to the east of that property line, on the east side of the black mark is a new driveway. We place rock in that. That's where the county maintenance will end. Our vehicle, our grader and trucks can turn around there. And then your Koskis and Hamptons will maintain the rest of the road as they see fit. Here's the statement from Paul Hanson, the owner on the north side. I agree with the road closure because the road ends in Reagan's yard, Ryan's yard. With us and Ryan owning both sides of the property, no one has permission to be on either way.
So 890 feet, that's what that black mark represents?
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any other comments
Yeah. Any comments from anyone here?
or online?
Basically, instead of the public road being his lane, he's gonna assume responsibility for his own lane. So we're gonna shed.
Is there any signage that we have to do or anything to?
There's a dead end sign there already. We're just gonna, and the county maintenance, we're just gonna move that to the new closure point. You know, at the intersection with K, there to the east, there's already a dead end sign.
Okay.
So I would recommend that we close the road, vacate the easement.
I'll make a motion, we close the
And I
public hearing.
don't have a resolution stating that because, you know, I don't know what's gonna happen at the public hearing. We're gonna close the public hearing and then take action on the request.
I move that we close public hearing if there's no other comment.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so next item up would be to discuss and approve the road closure and vacation on a segment of 245th Street in section 22-68-38. The motion?
Yeah, I make a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, been a motion and a second to approve this road closure. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
now do you need anything from us yet?
Well, I need to generate that resolution.
Okay, and then we
And then
can,
the chairman.
okay, sounds good.
If you like.
Yes, why don't we go ahead,
Public hearing or do the engineer
let's go ahead and, we've
Let's
got,
see if Marty has.
yeah,
anything.
Marty, how much more do you have? We can go ahead and finish you up, you guys?
Yeah.
Go ahead, let's finish you up and then we'll, that way if you need to go, we can.
All right, if I remember where I left off, something that we need a risk assessment for this pipeline, plume modeling, what would happen if there's an escape, where it would be affected. Since CO2 tends to concentrate in low areas, it would concentrate in valleys, like where Shenandoah is located. So there is an imminent risk if there is a break in low areas like where the town of Shenandoah is located. It could impact a lot of people. We are basically being used as a human test subject without our permission for this project. As Jan said, they don't want any safety procedures administered, listed when the utilities board approves there or doesn't, assuming when they would approve it. They don't want the safety procedures listed. They need to be listed. I don't see the respect for the land. I don't see respect for the people in this project. The only thing they're after is the government subsidy. That's their big issue. Heck with the residents. Based on that, gentlemen, we need a county ordinance. That's not going to stop pipeline, but to give us a modicum of protection. I've offered to allow them to go around my home, which they said they would. No, they won't do that. They want to go through. That's their only route that they choose. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
I have a question. Where is this CO2 coming from? Shenandoah, the ethanol plant. Again, the ethanol plant in Shenandoah. Okay. Thank you.
One of the locations, and there's several plants all over the nation that are feeding. I can't remember how many different plants are that'll be affected, but yes, yeah. So, okay. JD, do you want to move back into the engineer's update?
It's another good day in Page County. The engineer update went out last evening. We have the blades out with hauled rock with 2 trucks. I got 3 mowers going. I got the brush mower up on Willow Avenue, a boom mower, the southwest veranda, and the side mowers on the gravels working in District 8 or northwest veranda. My pipe crew is down on a Beaver Dam at 290th and B Avenue, southwest part of the county, and next we're moving to do some pipe work up on M Avenue and N Avenue, north end of the county. We also have a blade working, ditching and on the back slope on Vine Avenue, north 110, where the farmer's taking out the fence and they're pushing out the fence. We'll clean that up and make it so that he can mow his back slope. Improve the road section there. work at the shop, the tandem, new tandems in from Hawkeye truck. It's 44, it's needed to go to RDO for the dealer. Should be today or tomorrow. Most of our tandems are set up for winter operations. With the tailgate sanders on, and we've had the front plow on and taking them back off. We're receiving salt. Half our latest order is here. And then moving on to the engineer side. Construction is underway at Essex, but the road's not closed, and they're working on clearing the gravel and moving excess dirt on the east side. There's 12,000 yards of waste on the project because the bridge is getting longer. We have channel excavation to do, and they're moving dirt from the east side west using the bridge. And they're considerate of our local traffic because they can do this without closing the bridge. And given Thanksgiving, well, not Thanksgiving necessarily, but the Christmas and New Year holiday, they're going to be off several weeks as a firm for family things. So they're not going to close the road and then go away for a couple of weeks. They're going to wait to close the road till after the New Year holiday, first week in January. So that's considerate on behalf of the contractor for us. Goberson Smith still anticipates starting work on the 280th Street Bridge first week in December. We did public hearing on road closure already. Thank you. And we're working on project development for T34. That's the bridge on 190th Street and M56. There'll be 65 the bridge down in Washington Township on C Avenue. A short week this week, Thanksgiving holiday. And we're doing that at the King House with a couple of extra grandkids from St. Paul. Next week we have a safety meeting in the shop. One of the topics will be cold weather. Although it's not cold right now, it will get cold. And cold weather operations, a favorite of mine was in Alaska in the 80s. Learned about color. Questions for me?
I don't have anything.
Is the truck, is it everything right on it? No, it's finally here.
It, like the single axle, it doesn't track very well, so it's front end steering, which we finally got solved with new steering gear on the single axle. Tandem is the same way.
Then it new, I mean, what's the deal there?
It's yeah, parts.
What's that?
So
They're gonna have to
they're
figure it
gonna
out.
have to fix that. It took new steering gear on the single axle. I anticipate that could be the same
They'll
on
do
the
the
tandem.
same thing. Is that gonna be a long time, you think, or?
A month on the single,
Okay.
but we haven't had snow yet.
Yeah.
At any time,
Snow,
not yet.
snow, wait a month.
Yeah.
That'll keep snow away, keep it in shop. Wouldn't it? On the Essex Bridge, I just wanted to say that really appreciative of the collaboration. You know, the reality of the Essex Bridge starting construction today is a result of several years of hard work with the city of Essex to go through the annexation project to be able to access their $1 million to supplement that project on it. And it's going to improve agriculture in that part of the county tremendously.
Yeah.
So
And then, that's part of the reason we can do this bridge in the southeast corner also, because we saved that $1 million.
yeah,
From
right.
our bridge fund.
So thanks for your planning on it.
Yes, thanks, Shady.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Before we get to the next, you two, if you've got some ordinances, I know that Shelby, and I know you said Crawford is working on one. Any of those that you want to send to the three of us, please feel free to. That gives us something to look at, and then we can pass them on. And either let our attorney look at them. I know that this is still a learning process, and we're getting inundated with comments and from everybody through my emails anyway. I assume you two are regarding this. So it's a very big concern for us, but don't take my fact that we had to go into the 845 issue as because I'm very, very concerned. I grew up on a farm. I don't like anybody to take my land without needing to. So,
I'm a dear friend of Steve Kegels. He and I spent a lot of time together, served on a couple of committees together, and Steve has done remarkable work on this. And I've seen passionate people in my life. I'm not sure I've seen anybody more passionate than Steve on this project. And he worked with the Allers and Cooney attorneys to, and Shelby County took a lot of expense in drafting this. So, and I don't know, did Montgomery County pass it the other day?
No. We have not. Montgomery County has not taken any action yet. The planning and zoning commission met, it might have been September or October, and had approved an initial draft. And then they chose to engage with Allers and Cooney and waited for them to improve the draft from Shelby County. And now they're just in the process of trying to get all their ducks in a row to reconvene. The planning and zoning will meet again before it goes to the Board of Supervisors.
And at one time, I remember in a discussion with Steve, I think it was at ISAC, there was some urgency to get this done before the end of the year.
There had initially been urgency to complete this by the 1st of January. That's still a good goal, but it's slipping away from us as the calendar pages keep flipping. However, because the Iowa Utilities Board has recently said Summit doesn't have enough voluntary easements, they can't schedule a hearing. The urgency is we have to have ordinances in place before the Iowa Utilities Board starts moving along.
So their March date has been moved forward. They're not committed.
Well, we'll know we'll know more on December 13th, but it's not likely at this point. Yeah, but that's what Summit is telling me.
That's in our packet here. There's an update on all the rulings and everything there. I just saw this morning. So. And we approved an expenditure. ISAC is doing a soil study on the potential impact of pipelines on Iowa soil. And I think
specific to compaction, I think.
Yes.
Specific to compaction.
Right.
What a compaction. And I don't know. I think a fair number of counties contributed to that. I don't know when the study will be available or when we're going to get any data, but
their involvement is going to help on this process too, because they're very involved, a lot deeper than we probably know on the Department of ISAC is,
That's good. And I will just make a plug. Several counties are using Allers and Cooney, and they have said collectively anything they do for the common of the multiple people who have engaged with them, they share that expense. So you don't have, each county doesn't have to carry the burden of financially.
Okay, thanks, Jan. Okay, next item up is to discuss approve publishing notice of Veterans Affairs Commission vacancy. I'm just going to read what the ad is going to say. You want me to read, or do you want?
I'll clarify.
Okay.
I'm JD Kennedy, not to be confused with JD King.
Yeah.
I've been JD longer than he has. Wendy, the other commissioner, PA commissioner, sent an email to Ron, myself, Janet, and Denise saying that she was resigning.
Right.
We're not sure whether or not she sent that notice to the county.
Okay.
I talked to Melissa last week, and she is now going to publish a.
Yes, that's what I was going to read. Yes, we've got the ad here ready. Okay. We just have to approve it.
Well, that's all I've got, but I do just have a public comment on what they're talking about. I spent 5 years. I've worked in every major refinery, power station, nuclear power station, chemical plant, and steel mill in the Western United States, fixing high pressure steam leaks under pressure. I know what they're facing. Anybody wants any comments from me? They're welcome to me. Are we done?
Thank you, JD. The ad is going to possibly run next week, but it could be the end of the following week because of the holidays. And it just, Page County Supervisors are now taking applications for the following board seats. Veterans Affairs Commission vacancy, 3-member commission to provide guidance and oversee operations of the Veterans Affairs Department. The term will expire in 2023. Anyone who wishes to apply may obtain a volunteer application from the auditor's office or online at the website. They must be returned to the auditor's office by 4 p.m. Thursday, December 22nd, 2022. Call the office number if you have any questions. So, you know, that is true. There is not, that is not there. So,
This is the ad that we post every time there's a vacancy. So
okay.
I think that falls through the application process. And
Okay,
that-
yes.
Not the fact that we're just taking.
Yeah,
applications.
Yeah.
So
So it'll be on the
are you a
application.
veteran or you're not a veteran?
Yeah. On the application, will have that stated. So, yeah. Okay.
And maybe the media can help and when
Yes.
they do their story and say that that's, that a veteran is,
Yeah.
you have to have a veteran
Yes.
requirement to be considered.
I'm still fairly good at this article.
Okay. Would there be a motion to approve publishing the?
So,
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay. We'll get that. You get that back. Next item up is discuss jail study with City of Shenandoah. So, AJ, do you want to speak first? Okay.
Morning, I'm AJ Lyman, City Administrator for the City of Shenandoah. I'm here on behalf of the city and the residents of Shenandoah. Really, we have a couple of questions. I mean, related to where the jail location. I know that there was a meeting a number of months back that we had to follow up with Chuck and said that we, the city, would be involved in discussions going forward. We have not been invited to anything so far. You know, our biggest question really is why is a centralized location in the county not being considered for a potential location for the jail and the sheriff's office? My prior life doing emergency management with FEMA, been in hundreds of counties across the country. I can't count the number of central sheriff's office jails I've been in order to provide centralized services everywhere. You know, from a management perspective, you know, the city of Shenandoah for years and years and years has been responsible for transporting all of our arrests to Page County Jail. We figured up the math. We spend at least $40,000 a year just in transporting to Page County. You know, and that's a cost that's not shared on this side of the county. You know, we're not saying it's being Shenandoah or anything like that. We're just asking that, you know, this be looked at and be approached as fairly as it can be for all the citizens of this county. You know, we also, I mean, when it comes right down to it, the latest location that we heard is another couple of miles further away from us. You know, that's hard to swallow. You know, I mean, we're working on the general fund like everybody else is, and you know that we're gonna have to cut other services to increase our fuel budget, basically. That's not ideal for the citizens of Shenandoah from our perspective. Let me see some other notes here. You know, I guess our biggest thing is that, you know, we just want to be included in that conversation and be thought of. And really our police department covers 2 communities in this county, right? The fact that we haven't been involved or considered here is upsetting. So, that's all I really have. I'm not sure if the mayor or the chief of police really want to talk about it. You know, it's gotten to the point where, you know, quite frankly, Sydney's closer to us than Clarinda is. And, you know, it's quicker for us to go to Fremont County Jail. You know, the man hours alone just to come to Page County Jail is a couple hours every drop, you know, whereas Sydney, you're in and out in 45 minutes. So.
First off, I just want to say that, do we have any land in Shenandoah that we can put a jail on in a dispatch center?
In the city of Shenandoah?
Yeah.
I can find you some for sure. Yeah.
Jacob, put that on your list.
Yeah.
I brought up the subject of putting it somewhere in the middle because I'm a strong believer in trying to somehow someday maybe of combining and making Page County one county instead of two separate cities. But I was told that some of the reasons why the jail is more suitable to be in the county seat is the expense once the prisoners get there of getting them to the courts, getting them to a hospital. Some of those travel expenses get rather pharmacies, trips, dentist, eye doctor, because it's amazing. I don't think most people realize how many times those prisoners get serviced for things like that. And that was one of the big reasons, and that came to me from somebody that had been involved in the sheriff's department many years ago. He said it's a great idea, but he said it really gets complicated with the number of trips. Now, I don't know how many times it might benefit to have it closer to Interstate 29 to shoot to Council Bluffs with those prisoners if they go on up, or is it easier to go out of the Brenda area? That I don't know what the travels are.
So what I will say to that is we have 2 hospitals in this county.
I know.
We have multiple dentists and doctor's office in both.
And
communities.
that's where I think it would be encouraging for the jail commission to look at, is there room in Shenandoah to put this, to move the dispatch center? Is that a feasible thing to do? Can the county support that? And I've always said along, I would have never, but I think it needs to be near a hospital. That is the one positive that I got out of some of my communications with Lyle, is that it's amazing how many trips they make to the doctors and what that costs once they're in jail. So.
Yeah, I guess the other point I would have on that is, you know, in this day and age, arraignments are being done online
They're
or over the
starting
phone.
to, we're getting closer
Yeah.
to that.
So
Yeah.
there's less transport for that.
Yes.
I mean, also post-COVID, so many doctors' appointments are being done virtually as well now.
Yeah, we're looking at that, and I know that's something that's going into this study, is how much do we need to have transportation and how much are we going to be able to do in-house from the dispatch jail center? You know, that's a
And
very good point.
to your point about, you know, combined services, you know, if there's ever a point where we go to countywide emergency medical services, you know, if they're co-located in that same location, you could potentially have some medical services on site there as well.
Sure.
You know, I think if your goal is maybe eventually countywide and, police
Well,
services.
It was one of my dreams, but
I
that dream is.
understand.
Is Shenandoah open to that?
Not if the jail is not centrally located, is what my answer.
If it was, are you? Is the
I,
question.
you know, there's a lot of things that need to be worked through with that. I wouldn't say we would dismiss it offhand, but the way the current setup is, it's not providing the services that the citizens of Shenandoah need.
I just like to chime in with 2 cents worth. When we started the jail process, we assigned Jacob to be our liaison, and I expressed to Jacob and Alan, I was not very happy when there was a meeting called, and I'm not sure, it doesn't matter how it got called. The city of Clarendon was there, Shenandoah was not. I can understand how you would feel. That was not right.
We weren't there either.
No, that's right. We weren't there either. So that got called by our law enforcement people, and I think that it's clear the city of Clarendon is probably more aggressive toward moving to a unified, or co-location. But for you guys now, again, Jacob has been our guy so that we don't have quorum problems, and he's reported back to us. But there's got to be a community conversation on where these go. And I see Greg Wild is on the line. He's with the Samuels group, who, that's who we've engaged to help us through this process. And I would encourage Jacob and Greg that anytime there is an additional meeting, or next time there's a meeting, every meeting, the city of Shenandoah, anytime that Clarendon's there, Shenandoah.
And probably Essex,
Well, and from a law enforcement, you're representing Essex and Essex.
Well, that's true.
That's just my,
Not to speak for Essex, but extending them the invite and the opportunity to send somebody would be nice.
yeah, so,
So there's been a lot of discussion about trying to make it somewhere west, something west on two somehow. I mean, we've even sought land and how many meetings we said, this is brainstorming time. We're trying to figure something out. We've talked about things, so everybody I think understands it'd be nice if it was on at least the west edge of things or somewhere over there, but it's land, we tried, and if anybody has any ideas, again, we're looking for land.
The rumor I heard way back was that Farmer Telco had some land somewhere around.
they did not.
We thought they did.
Okay.
No,
And we sought land and asked about land west on two different parcels and came back with a no-go, wouldn't have it at any price.
We were
So
looking,
we're brainstorming.
we're looking at the, landfill area and that the dirt work was going to be tremendous to get that leveled out there next to the highway. That was a possibility
So
because we own that, or we don't own it, but
there's nothing picked right now. The only thing is we've only defined what we have to choose from, which is only right now really
county
that's
farm.
feasibly worked out. And so it's a good thing to brainstorm lots of things. So now I've been told, that's what happened. I've been told over and over that Shenandoah wants nothing to do with unified law enforcement. Really, and I can see why maybe right now, but if there was a new plan of some sort.
It's never been presented specifically to council or anybody. But in the current setup, it would not work for us. And if without a centrally located service center, I don't see it working for us.
And as a county supervisor, I'm not sure I support it because the county will incur a lot more cost in that scenario. A lot more cost. We found that in dispatch and 911. So unified law enforcement isn't an end all. I like the camaraderie thing. I like the fact that we're not, if we get to a point where Shannon and Clarenda don't compete and they work together, that's awesome. I'm not sure you do that through unified law enforcement, but.
Yeah, and this isn't a competition thing from the city's perspective. It's a fairness thing.
So.
Well, thank you for letting us have this time this morning, and Roger McQueen, Mayor of Shenandoah. Because, and like I say, it's not a matter of, we're not saying we want it in Shenandoah. We just want a place at the table when these discussions occur. We're not opposed to anything. Originally, when the idea was to have the jail and the new, we're in the police department, of course, we got to back others up a little bit, because why should citizens on the west side be paying for a new jail or a PD? I understand that's not going to happen. We're just looking at a jail. So, but again, we appreciate what you're doing. We're not here to stir up anything. We just want a place at the table on these discussions, because we have to represent our people in Shenandoah and the people that our police force represent in Essex. And so we would like to have some kind of input on this, of how this goes. So we're not, like I say, we're not here. I appreciate you guys' time for letting us come over, because we just thought this would be a good time to get it on the conversation. Like Chuck said, let's sit down to next time and have a discussion. And please just bring us in on it, because we want it to be fair for the whole county. We want to do the best thing for the whole county. So, we want it to be able, so our officers can bring prisoners, and so can Clarenda on this side. So again, I appreciate that, and I just wanted to go on the record of Shenandoah was very much in support of it, but we need to work together. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll send a note to Greg.
He's on the
I know,
phone.
but I'll send a note with their email addresses so that he
Yeah.
can, would that be okay with you?
Oh, yeah, and I wonder if we could just, this is all brainstorming right now, so we keep just trying to brainstorm. Just get on the agenda and let everybody, that's what I keep saying at the end. If anybody has any good ideas, let's get this in here, maybe have everybody in the world that wants to come, so they can give their ideas,
Well, I would,
figure it out.
Jacob, I would defer that question maybe to Greg, who's built a lot of these. You want community input at all levels. On the front end, sometimes you need to probably define the boundaries before you have a free for all, because then you a lot of times don't get anything done.
We're just trying to get a giant bunch of choices and then kind of they narrow down pretty fast. It's hard
Greg,
to
would
find.
you like to chime in? It looks like Greg's
Yeah,
chomping at the bit.
go ahead, Greg.
Good morning. I'm not chomping at the bit, but I would be happy to address folks in Page County. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to help provide some insight. And at this point, there have been absolutely no decisions made. We are all in the investigative stage at this point, looking for what might be considerations for locations, whether it's co-located or not. We have looked at multiple sites on the eastern side of the county. We have been willing and trying to look and find a location in the central portion of the county with not much success. But we are absolutely open to looking at and continuing this search for an ideal location and encouraging and including representatives from Shenandoah or other portions of the county in that conversation. So we'll make sure that we reach out to them. If you'll provide some contact information, we'll make sure they're invited as well.
Thanks.
Greg, I have I'm sending you an email right now that's got the mayor's and the city manager's email address on it, just a short note. So you'll have those too in your record book. So
sounds great.
Josh's email too.
Okay, I don't know if I have Josh's.
I've got Josh.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Greg.
Has it been put out in public to ask if anybody's willing to give up some location or somewhere?
Well,
Not every week been saying,
yeah, I've made
looking for
several
land.
comments.
I mean, if they put out any of the radio stations.
It's been on the radio on both KCSI and KMA, comments about it. I've received several notes from people saying, you know, I don't have land, but I think that's a good idea, because when we started this, and I made that comment probably a year ago, and I had a lot of feedback, but no, I had one person that talked to me about a piece of property. Oh, it's probably closer 60% this way, but he didn't know if he wanted to donate it or not. It was, anyway, I'm not going to mention the farmer's name, but it was I think his mother's or stepmother's or somebody's farm. And you know, with farm prices right now, everybody's wanting $25,000 an acre. They're not willing to give that up for a jail because they don't want to upset their neighbors and have a jail in their neighborhood. So roughly, Jacob,
minimum of 5.
5 to 8.
Yeah, be 5 to 10, 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
But gotta have probably 5 acres to make sure if we just do the absolute necessary, there's room to add on in the future.
The big thing is level land eliminates a lot of the expense.
And your water,
Yeah.
of course, your infrastructure, and then being able to have communication,
Yeah,
having all that come together
yeah.
without spending
You
time
know.
to get there, like you know.
You know, originally we had, way back when we were talking, probably 4 or 5 years ago, we were thinking around the landfill would be a great location. Because of the location of the hills and everything else, we could put the dispatch center there, have a tower, but that just never materialized because of some of the feedback.
It's a 100-year decision, basically, so it's got to be thought out. Figure out that's the best place.
Any other thoughts? Questions? Jacob, got everything you need to know?
I would just encourage, I'll come back to, I would encourage the jail committee to look at overbuilding it and providing income stream from federal prisoners. I think Fremont County's doing that. A lot of counties are doing that. And if we're going to build a state-of-the-art facility, let's utilize it.
Then we could probably afford $280,000 for 10 acres of land. So, I mean, I'm serious. You know, if we pick up federal prisoners.
Well, that all goes into the figures when they put together these figures. If we do this, then we do that, look at the year.
That's 6 years that we pay the grant for.
Yeah. Right.
So. Okay.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you. Okay, next item up is to discuss opening, closing of restrooms for the lighted Christmas parade. I know I'm going to be out of town.
I can take care of it.
You can do it? Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
thanks. Okay, so don't need to discuss any more there.
Nope, unless you want to.
We're gonna try to be here that night. There's a funeral. I just found us that night, so I'm not, or visitation, I mean, so I'm not sure.
I'll
We probably will be up here.
I'll be in town.
Okay.
Okay. You guys have anything else that you want to say before we finish up here? Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you've been getting multiple emails and traffic. That
I see a lot from the other counties. I get a lot from the other supervisors. Yes.
Sorry, just kind of wondering, is it locals? Is it 2 or 3? Is it 20 or 30?
Oh,
Is
no,
it Summit?
it would just be the ones up and down the road here, Crawford, Montgomery, Mills.
Okay.
Just comments, and I read their notes and of course what the radio stations have on printed. And then I do a little back research to see what else they're doing in their meetings. So I haven't looked at anything on the other side of the state or anything up north. So,
Has Summit been in to see you?
no, they haven't been here in how long?
Well, it wasn't, the only contact we've had, there was a meeting in Shenandoah that I attended, and you referenced Marty.
Like a year ago?
Yeah, a year ago.
Yeah.
Prior to that, the ISP company had come and we signed a letter of intent at that time that if a pipeline were built, that we would engage them as our inspector on any pipeline built in the county. But it was a letter of intent. We don't have a contract. And,
Right. And you're not bound to that.
No,
You could change.
No.
Montgomery County chose to go with Snyder and Associates, which is a little more local
Yep.
and more independent than ISG.
And the gentleman who presented to us, Evan Duvall, is no longer with ISG, so I don't even know who we would deal.
Yeah, we got a letter, I think, here about a month ago or so, telling who the new people were and so forth, but yeah. So,
Would you mind if I provided your contact information to the Snyder and Associates
sure,
gal?
sure,
To
sure.
tell her
sure.
that
No.
you may be in, you
Yeah.
may be
No, that's
interested in it.
perfectly. Yeah, just give the supervisors that email address, and that way it goes to all three of us equally, and that's fine.
Okay.
So,
What is that email address? I think I just have your individual one.
well, you can just do it the individual. That's fine. That's fine.
I think on the website, there's a link, Supervisor, when you click it, it auto fills all three.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So is the Snyder representative out of the Atlantic office, out of the Des Moines office, do you know?
The gal that comes to most of our meetings is from Fort Dodge, but the Atlantic office was involved in the initial meeting when they first made their presentation. But they're having, because it's such a specific activity, they kind of have one point person, and she happens to be from Fort Dodge.
Okay.
But they are working with multiple counties.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yes, sure.
I'd really encourage you to get an independent inspector. Based on some of the things that were said in Montgomery County last week. I think an independent inspector for your county, as opposed to one that Summit Carbon proposes, would be a much better investment, be much better, much more security for our people in this county.
Yeah.
So I think it would really be a good endeavor on your part to go that route.
Okay.
Another question. What's the pressure on that?
What I've been told, 2,200 to 2,800 pounds per square inch. Oil pipelines, give or take, run around 900 pounds per square inch. Natural gas pipelines run around 1,500 pounds per square inch. The CO2 pipelines run in that 2,200 to 2,800 pounds per square inch. So it is a considerably high pressure line, without a doubt. And if there is a break, it's not, let's say if you have a pinhole break or something, a rust spot, and that's part of the issue. If there's any moisture gets into this pipeline, it combines with CO2 and it creates carbonic acid. Well, it's not going to cause you a problem initially. Someday it may cause an issue. When it does, you won't just have a little hole where it seeps out. You'll have a rip in the pipe. You have a big release at one time. So it's a major issue if they do have a release. And at some point they will. You know, you get they've talked about they have hundreds of years of experience in people that are putting in this pipeline. Since some carbon is a startup pipe. They've gotten an engineer from here, an engineer from there, and that's well and good. That's what they have to do. But I guess I would ask if there was a car company that got an engineer from Ford and one from Chrysler and one from GM and one from Toyota, and they have a whole bunch of years of experience and they put out a new line of vehicles. Would you be the one to want to buy the first vehicle that comes off the line? That answers itself, doesn't it? There's stuff that falls through the cracks. It's like I was saying about McDonald worked at the major pipeline in Minnesota. They have an excellent track record of safety. They checked their line. There was another pipeline to the north of them in Canada that did not have the same track record, and they had releases. It seemed like every other year, major releases. So it's the protocols, it's the safety that they put in that really makes it safe. They can talk all they want, but a lot of the times it's experience. That's why Chrysler, Ford, and Toyota put out reasonably consistent cars because they've got years of experience. They're not starting. Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Like, I can add what he's saying there. I've worked on radioactive steam leaks, high pressure steam leaks up to 4,600 pounds, 950 degrees. I've been blown up in a refinery in Los Angeles, and I've been overexposed to radiation in one of these power stations out here. I worked on 5 minutes of the power station, pipes leak.
Can you guys hear me?
Sure, yes.
Okay, I just have a comment here. This is Ashley Urkowski, and as all these people that are speaking, I support I understand what they're fighting, and they're very well spoken. It just, my oh my, how the tables have turned. It surprises me that a lot of them, I mean, I don't know what happened to Chuck and Alan's timers, but we've gone over 5 minutes of public comment, and we are having public comments throughout the meeting, and just amazes me how you guys pick and choose who you really want to speak to and let talk and listen to for the hundreds of people that have gone in there for 3 years trying to fight for their farmland, which now, Alan, you state that you grew up on a farm and you do not agree with people taking farmland away from you. This is just all quite amazing to me, what is happening here and what you guys are letting happen during your meeting, because it's going against your whole meeting protocol right now. And I have been in these meetings when you have shut up hundreds of people sitting in there, and you don't want to listen to them. You won't let them speak over 5 minutes, and they're all trying to save their farmland too. So this is just quite amazing to me, watching this morning.
Thanks, Ashley. Okay, this time Board of Communication.
Okay. At a Zion meeting yesterday, there was no quorum. Going to reconvene on the 5th of December and have a regional mental health disability board meeting on Monday in Oakland.
I've got here some papers from my juvenile detention meeting. We'll get the auditor, but we were able to come in under budget, and we will get $11,459 back to have us for our new budget next year. I give us to them, so that worked out good. And I don't think I have any meetings this week. I gotta think about that. I don't think so.
First, the VA building, we did finally get in there on, and I can't remember what day it was now, it's been about a week and a half ago. They think they isolated where the little drips were coming in through, allowing the water through that roof seal. They came and did some talking. I passed a message back up the ladder to the lady from Zion. I can't think of her name.
Well, Lori is the head, but that's not who you're dealing with.
Anyway, I did send her a note back. We'll leave the ceiling tile out just to make sure once we get a snowfall and a leak to see if there's still anything. So, hopefully we'll have everything fine by spring. So.
Is that the new coating?
Yes, yeah. What it was around the roof edge. They think it was filling up and coming up right underneath that and then running across where it was at. He couldn't find anything up on the actual roof on the coating. So felt pretty sure. They apologized immensely for taking so long, but they had so many claims in Nebraska and Iowa with hail damage that they were trying to get caught up on and getting the big damages done, and they finally got done. Jacob, I had a talk with the IWD, the Iowa Workforce Development, last night, and they're looking at names for next year to have on the call list and committee list. I gave them yours just because I didn't know if you would, since you're vice chair, that she preferred to have the chairman's potential for next year. So if you get a call from somebody from Des Moines area or from the northern Iowa area, she's from Plymouth County, about Iowa Workforce Development, that's what it's about. So then I have a West Central Community Action, I'm sorry, Wabansie Mental Health meeting today this afternoon. So, okay. Go through the claims.
Okay.
Anything in there you saw, Jacob, that a lot of expenses for prisoners?
Mhm.
Well, I would just encourage people, if they're listening to the meeting or hear anything, and if they know somewhere there's a piece of ground sitting out there in the middle they think would be a great location that has rural water and access and a good location for transmitting signal.
It's okay to look at about anything.
Pardon?
It's okay to look at about anything.
Yes, yeah,
Look, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
there is no limit on what is, I think it'd be a great start to building a stronger relationship between the two ends of the county. It'd be a wonderful deal.
It is pretty, when you start breaking down everything that goes into it, it's pretty easy to weed through things, you know?
Yeah.
It's not bad to have a lot to look at.
Mhm. Todd, you got 5 acres out at your place. They keep the grass trimmed down.
Good to go.
Yeah. That'd lower the cost. No, we can always hope somebody will become benevolent and present a piece of ground that would be perfect for us.
Right.
All right, I'm through the claims. I'd make a motion, we approve the claims as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve the claims. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Next item up is
You get your.
minutes. I didn't see anything when I read through them the other night.
I didn't either. That was fine.
No, they were fine.
I get to approve the minutes. Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jacob,
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.